Have you ever noticed 2D animated shows always seem to have simple-ish character designs? Not simple in a bad way, but more as digestible, recognizable characters that have few iconic items that are attributed to them. They'll usually have one or two standout features, limited color palettes, and very strong designs, despite them being, again, simple. Of course, there are exceptions to this. Some shows favor more complex character designs, but that will bleed into their animation. Characters that are harder to draw just because of the sheer amount of complexity and detail will inevitably be moving less than their less complicated counterparts. I'm sure you've already encountered shows that look amazing as screenshots, but as animations are very lacking and very boring. I think one of the ways to avoid this is by having more efficient animatable characters. Less elements to worry about means the animators are free to put more of their focus on the movement rather than worrying about the consistency of their character from one frame to another. I found that this principle is somewhat universal as well. You see it in animation of all kinds, whether it be American, French, Japanese. The degree is always change, but the respect for this rule is always the same. I feel like I should clarify, I am specifically referencing 2D frame-by-frame animation, since not all animation mediums respect this rule. A good example of this is 3D animation. 3D animators do not give a shit about balls, dude. Their characters can be as simple or as complicated as they want, and ultimately it makes sense for them. Because they only have to make that character once, and then it exists forever to be used by their animators. Unlike for 2D animation, where every single frame of the character is redrawn by an animator. This means tiny details that could seem doable for a single frame or two can quickly morph and become nightmares if you had to redraw them hundreds of times over. In this video, I want to take a look at some character designs that are pretty successful and do a good job of being animatable. We're going to look at how they do that and try and learn from it as I make my own character. I'm also going to share with you guys some sure ways to test if your character is animatable. Let's get into it. So what does it actually mean to make something animatable? I think it can be boiled down to 3 rules. First, they should not be a huge pain to animate, no useless information, and can be drawn hundreds of times without too much fatigue. Second, they should have clear, recognizable, cohesive, simple designs. This is relative, so this can be twisted and pushed around to adjust to your art style and show and character and whatever. So this is not like a super strict rule, but it's there as well. And lastly, they should be able to be used and followed by anyone easily. A good character design is so easily recognizable in any art style drawn by anyone. Basically, anyone should be able to recreate your character consistently. A lot of what we talk about is less animation and more just good character design, but understanding that and some of those principles I feel can make you a better animator. This topic is also relatively subjective, since a lot of people have their own ideas of what stands out to them and what makes good design, but we're going to try and whittle it down to what I think are some of the core concepts that are generally mostly true. So I've picked out a few characters that I think are pretty good examples of what I want to talk about. Yeah, so the first one I want to talk about is Yoko. She's very complicated. This is Yoko from Gurren Lagann, by the way. If you haven't seen the show, it's amazing. Watch it. It's so good, so good. They actually won an award for their character designs. That's how good they are. But yeah, this is what I would consider like a more complicated character design. And if you're looking at this and you're like, oh, I've seen like stuff that's way more complicated, this is not even complicated, whatever. I'm referencing more like stuff that's actually gonna get animated. Like there's a lot of shows that have these characters that are super cool looking and they're amazing and they have all these details and like ornaments and whatever, but they're not really animated as much. Like you'll only see very limited animation, like mouth movements. So I'm excluding those. I'm not talking about this. I'm only talking about stuff that you can actually animate and you see animated regularly, like Gurren Lagann, where they don't really pull punches. Like the characters are super detailed still, like still simple and doable in terms of animation, but it's like they don't not animate them. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, like you have elements like her belt, this gun, her hair that are technically very detailed but super identifiable. And I'm gonna draw her really quickly just to show you guys just how doable it is. Like I've never drawn Yoko before, and I'm gonna draw it really badly, but just to show you that it's still recognizable. I drew her like really quickly, but you can see that the characters, you know it's her, like just from that stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that you need for roughs. Just if you're animating quickly, you just need this basically for it to be recognizable. And just having this stuff, it's so easy to come like later on and actually go in there and be like, okay, define all of the hair strands, define the eyeballs, like all that stuff becomes easier when the foundation is easy to draw like this. Yeah, so I just think she's a very good example of what a good character design is. That's like high detail. I would call this high detail for sure. This is Chihiro, Spirited Away. I'm sure you all know her. She's very good also. The character designs for this for here are a lot more simple. And I don't mean simple in a bad way, because like the anatomy is very like complicated. You can see that they don't spare any expense with that. And yeah, this is something I'm not really gonna touch on, because anatomy, even though it is technically part of character design, it's not something that I can really cover, because it's more related to like, have you done your studies? Because once you know how to draw like a human body, it becomes very simple in terms of you can modify your style to fit this or that, or even Simpsons, you know. It's so that's not something I really want to include too much in my analysis of like character designs. So yeah, I want you guys to keep this in mind. So I'm gonna ignore the body, but the proportions do actually make a huge difference. So you can see her head in comparison to her body is very prominent. Even like the width of her feet out of the pants, that's super important too. It just makes her look very kiddish and very childish, which she is. It's a kid. But yeah, these are all things to keep in mind and can be things that you can play with. But the character design itself is so simple. She's just wearing a shirt, this, and just her headband. The colors also add a lot, so that's something to keep in mind. I haven't put it here just because it doesn't have it in the sheet, but yeah. Simpsons is also a very good example. This is like the American... I feel like this is like the Americanized animation way. It's like sort of very constructional. Like you can see even here how they've constructed the spheres. This is like, yeah, it feels super Disney to me almost, in terms of like the construction where they really want to feel the spheres out and actually feel how the forms are going on top of each other. But yeah, in terms of actual like character design, this is all like proportion. So it's mainly like this to that. The ratios have to stay the same, and it's technically a simple design, but it's also very easy to get it wrong. Especially back in the day when they would actually draw this. I'm pretty sure Simpsons now they just use puppets, which is a lot faster and more efficient, especially for this style. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind if you're doing a style like this, which it can seem like super simple, but getting just small ratios wrong will make your character feel completely off. And all of these characters, like even if they're drawn badly, like I could draw them really badly, would still be super recognizable. Like anyone can draw Homer and it would be like, oh, I know Homer. He's the donut guy, right? You know? Chihiro as well. You can draw her with her, like, she has little eyes and little proportions, and you can draw her. And people will know it's her. The colors help a lot with Chihiro. I feel like that carries her design a lot too. So I have here what I would consider like a bad example of a character design. Something that would definitely not work for animation. This is my own character. I've already shown this character before. And even though it might look cool like in 1 or 2 frames or as an image like here or there, in terms of animation, even this simplified one that I did is a nightmare, dude. Like this is technically doable, but I still would consider it really bad, just because it doesn't seem as defined or consolidated as it should be for animation. And if you gave this to like other people to do, it would look a lot different, and that's a fault of the design. So something like this that has a lot of just intricate details just is something you really want to avoid. I'll give you a way that you can completely avoid this so that you don't fall into this trap at all. So the character I want to work on just showed up very like organically, because I draw a lot and sometimes just characters appear and they consistently appear. So this was, I think, like my first iterations of this character, but I really like the idea of like having a bathrobe, and I like some of the design elements that I already have with her, like this inverted V shape for the hair, the one eyeball, that, I don't know, like the mouth, and just the design in general. I feel like it's not super complicated, and it's pretty simplifiable, I feel. So I do want to explore that a little bit more, like on one page, to kind of try and push the styles towards like more simple but also not, kind of see where I can take the character basically. Alright, so I was able to explore this character a little bit more. Yeah, I played around with a lot of stuff just to see what I kind of like and what I don't. I really like stuff like this where basically I'm playing with the proportions a lot and just really simplifying the character. Stuff like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I kind of expanded like on the bathroom theme, where she has a bathroom but now she's like related to bathrooms somehow. And like little rats. I like the fact that she's really expressive and I want to keep that, so I tried doing like more expressive-ish stuff just to see if she would still be recognizable if you simplified her that much. And yeah, I think it's good. It's going in a good direction. If I was really trying like to make this character properly and solidify them, the next step would be a character sheet. Yeah. So you do a character sheet, front, 3/4, side, and back. But I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to. So I'll just tell you guys really quick, how do you actually know if this character is animatable? The first way is something that I've already done here, is just to simplify the character like this. If you can chibify your character and still have them recognizable with elements like that, then your character is most likely animatable, because you have like these elements that stand out and still make your character recognizable even though you have changed the proportions. The second way to test if your character is animatable, and this second way is way more efficient and like it will actually tell you like yes it is or no it's not, is to actually animate them. Whoa, oh my god, I can't believe it. I actually have to animate the character. Yep, you do. Yeah. So if you actually animate the character, then you'll know for sure, and there'll be like no doubt. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna animate this character. It's not gonna be like super cleaned up or anything. I just want to see if it's doable and if it's recognizable even in like the rough stage. And yeah, and I would recommend you guys do that as well if you're trying to make your character animatable or even test them. What you'll realize is if you do have like a really bad character, not bad, but like character that's not fit for animation and it's really detailed, you'll notice that the first frame you do is going to be like super detailed, like amazing detail. And then as you keep going, like second frame, you'll lose more detail. And last frame, you'll keep losing more and more details. And this process is actually super useful because it's pretty much going to show you what's necessary and what's not, in terms of basically keeping your character. So you'll notice that stuff like the blush, like all these tiny hair strands, kind of fade away when you do have an animation, because it's not that important to have every single strand of hair. And even later on you'll notice maybe you don't even need all of these sections and you can simplify it to this. So the process of actually animating it actually forces you to make that character animatable, especially if it's not something like a wave. You need the character to actually move, you know? You can't, if you cheat this process then it won't work, so you actually have to animate the character. But yeah, so I'll talk to you guys soon after I finish the animation. Yeah. Okay, so I just finished the animation. Yeah, I'll just show you guys like the version that's playing. Yeah, so I think this character is animatable. What do you guys think?